Hatep and Ma'at, welcome. That means I'm offering you truth. I'm Asnefaka. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This is going to be an energy reading based on an alchemical oracle system based on ancient African symbolism from ancient Kemet, which many people know as ancient Egypt. So this is going to be an oracle reading. This is my pyramid reading. So it is a full 10 card spread. So I'm going to actually show the cards in a moment so you can see the extent of the reading. But for today's reading here on YouTube, I'm only sharing the top 3 cards of the reading, which is going to be dealing with the overarching energy. And then for the full extended reading, it is for members of Tehuti Ma'at. So if you don't know, Tehuti Ma'at is a revolutionary instrument focused on the collective resurrection of people of African ascent through knowledge, empowerment, and programming that is centered around institution building in the areas of healing, art, and education. So we create various cooperative institutions, and one of our cooperative institutions is Coins and Karis. So this reading is brought to you by Coins and Karis, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put on the screen as well the website, but all the links are in the description. If you want to check out coinsandkaris.com, it is our spiritual marketplace where we offer spiritual services and spiritual goods. So you can visit coinsandkaris.com to find out more about our work and how it connects to our Organic Food for the People initiative. So there's a lot more there. If you're interested in a personal reading with me, I do virtual readings, and you can book that on coinsandkaris.com, as well as spiritual coaching as well. So that being said, I want to go ahead and first just show you the reading in full so you can see the card spread. And it's a really interesting reading. Obviously, it's eclipse season, so happy eclipse season. Eclipse season can be very strengthening. Well, it is very strengthening regardless, but sometimes we can see that in a challenging way. And it's my goal to really allow us to make it lighter and easier for us to actually move with the current and flow and surrender to the energy, because ultimately it is here to serve us, to serve our healing, to serve our growth and our expansion. So regardless of what you're going through right now, this energy reading is really encapsulated for this eclipse season. But remember that these readings are timeless. So it's always, a fated connection whenever you align with anything. So just trust that there's a message here for you. And I don't do readings the way most people may be familiar with different types of divination readings, particularly tarot. These are not tarot cards. They're an alchemical oracle system, as I said. So it's a bit different. It's not based on the traditional houses. It's based on these African-centered houses based on Kemetic science. And I also really focus on exercising your intuition and really just reading the energy that's present and recognizing that these are forces of nature that are indwelling within us. And if we choose to be aware of them and embody them, then that's when we have more ease and we can move through these energy cycles more gracefully. So I'm going to go ahead and show the reading. If you do want to join Tehuti Ma'at, our membership program is called the Tehuti Ma'at Militia. And if you want to join the ranks to be of service, because we do a lot of different community service-based work, but we also do a lot of healing-centered work and leadership development, which we consider to be warriorship development. And yeah, you can find out more at tehutimaat.org, and you can join at tehutimaat.org/join. All the links below. And if you have any questions, you can always send us an email as well. So I'll go ahead and allow that. You can also shoot a text to 646-883-MAAT. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull this here. Oops. And there we go. So this is the full spread of the reading. I know it might be hard to see that top card there, but it's a very interesting reading. So we're going to center on these top 3 cards, but first I want to just give you the landscape of the reading, right? The Merkut reading is based on the 4 primary elements. So the top here is the fire principle. This is the guiding principle for the entire reading. When we move down into the second layer, we're moving into the air. This is the mental energy. So since we're focusing on the top here, it's significant because the energy does trickle down from the spark, from the spirit into the mind and the mental space, right? The ba, and then it comes into the ka, the emotional body. This is the water element. Okay. And then it comes into the physical three-dimensional reality, and how we experience it and sense it in the material physical world. Okay. So usually this is where it really gets interesting, because this is where it becomes very practical, where we can see the energy. Now, I do want to talk about how the energy is a progression. So I did pull the reading in fire ritual. Let me just make sure camera's good there. All right. So I did pull the reading during fire ritual at the new moon during the solar eclipse. And what's important to note is because it was the initiation of a new cycle. Remember, the moon is going to wax at the new moon into full illumination at the full moon, which is going to be a lunar eclipse. And then it's going to wane down and back and close out the cycle into a new moon. The important thing to recognize about eclipse cycles is they linger. So these are themes that we're going to continue to experience. But the interesting bridge about this particular eclipse season is how the energy is bridging what we're closing out and what we're entering into, the new stage that we're emerging into. So if you want more information about this particular eclipse season, we did a full episode, our last season finale for Navigating Eternity, our ancient astrology series. We did the Ring of Fire solar eclipse episode. So you should definitely check that out for more details, because right now I'm just going to focus on the cards and what the cards have to say about the energy. Okay, so that being said, we're going to start sensing this energy build up, and we're going to become more aware of it. Now, the nature of any eclipse energy is that it's going to raise things up to the surface from the subconscious. Okay, so that's inevitable. Now, the reason why I called the reading, what did I call this? Overcoming opposition to get the bag, is because there's a major theme, and the guiding principle of the entire reading is this particular card right here. Now, always, if you're watching the raw play, then please just pause it so that you can note whatever comes up for you intuitively whenever you see the symbolism. This one is always a very obvious one, because obviously the red, but it looks pretty devilish, because we are dealing with that devil energy. If you wanted to make this akin to something in the traditional tarot, it would be the devil card, actually. This is the card of Set. And Set is actually the word that Satan was taken from, right? In the MILITIA, in the ancient language. You also have different interpretation. It's Satesh, Satyphon, but Set ultimately is the energy of Satan, right? So it's quite literally the devil energy. But the way that I want us to reference this is in the context of the necessity of this force of nature, because it's very important for us to go into the lens, the ancestral lens, when it comes to these energies, these principles, right? Because they're not gods and goddesses. So it's not the devil energy in the sense where there's this like villain that's external outside of us. It's an energetic dynamic that exists on the planet, and that oftentimes we do embody. Set is actually the ego. Set is also gravity. I'm going to put the card back up because there's other things, other symbols in the card that you can give attention to. But the card is the number 3, which is interesting because it was seen that Set battles his nephew, Heru, who he killed his father in the mythology. And I go over this in that Ring of Fire solar eclipse episode. So I do highly recommend that you watch that, because the mythology around these stories, which are really the stories of the stars and the constellations, are very significant. Most people are really familiar with a lot of the Greco-Roman symbolism, because literally the planets are named after them. The Greek zodiac is the most common symbolism that's used around astrology. And we really focus on returning us back to the African origins, right? And the big thing about going back to the African origins is it has to be holistic thinking, because these are forces and principles. They're not deities. So when we're talking about Set in the house of Ra, right, the family of the sun, we're dealing with an element that's terrestrial in the context of our solar system. So it's the force of gravity. It's what brings things down. It's literally our ego, our material reality, but particularly our attachments. And this is the energy of fixation. So the thing that may be coming up, because Set is the energy of opposition. So because there's going to be this opposition energetically in the air, it just represents that, remember that gravity is the force that creates muscle. If we did not have gravity, there would be no way for us to run, lift weights, and do all the things that we do to build muscle. So Set is an energy that strengthens us, but it's through binding us to things. So things that might be coming up around this energy are material attachments, right? Things that we may be finding ourselves bound to, our connection to matter and our attachment to the physical things. This is also the energy of opposition, as I said. So fighting, war, conflict, things coming up along those lines. And it's a martial energy, so it is just inherently one that creates strife. So it's all about how you engage with it, because this is the energy of fixation. Set is a fixing force. Set is symbolizing the drought, the dry land. So when you think about Set in the context of the spiritual reality, if there's a lack of water, there's a lack of emotionality. It's very mental, it's very logical, it's very linear, it's fixed. It's the thing that keeps us attached to what is. And all of that is coming up right now because really, as we're moving through this cycle, it's very important for us to be aware of our ego, aware of our attachments, aware of the ways that we're stuck, right? And then moving through that. And as we move through the rest of the reading, the reason why I said it's overcoming the opposition to get the bag is because most of us, when we think about getting the bag, we're thinking about getting money. But what I actually want you to think about in regards to this energy and the energy that's present is everything has been working to rewrite our value system. And it really depends on what you put in the bag. So you being in your bag might be a bag full of money, but you being in your bag could also be a bag full of fresh food, depending on what you value. So because we've been moving through all these energies to adjust us into our own worthiness, our own deservingness, to see that just in our existence that we are valuable, right? But shifting our values in the context of all of the things that have created insecurities for us, that have made us feel that we're not valuable and that we're not enough and that we need these external material things in order to be valued, in order to be valuable, in order to prove ourselves. So those are all the things that we've been working through. So when I want you to think about like what's really in opposition to you getting the bag is your own perception and your own ego. And giving attention to the ways that your life has been trying to redirect and tweak and shift your value system so that you can connect to what actually matters beyond matter, right? Think about all the things that money can't buy. And recognize that threshold that you have to move through is through your own lower self, because Set is our lower self. It's our lower energy, our animalistic impulses, desire, lust, status, like all of the things that make us look outside of ourselves and that make us dry, essentially, right? It removes us from the emotional, removes us from the heart space, right? Set is also the energy of death and decay. So it's a necessary force in this realm, obviously, because it's a finite experience, right? None of us make it out alive. We're all going to die, but that death is just a rebirth. right? So sometimes it's also a big energy that's going to bring up a lot of fears, because usually people are afraid of death, right? Because we're not operating in the proper context, in the sense that what happens beyond death and what death becomes an opportunity for. So I'll get deeper into this in the militia exclusive reading, because there's a lot more depth to the energy, especially as we get deeper into the sacred science of Set and that specific principle of death. And now we're moving into the second layer, which, as I said, is the mental body. The reason why I love focusing on this energy is because once you know how the energy is going to influence you in the mental space and you align with that, everything else is seamless from there. Because once it comes into your mind, you're able to sense it and you can process it emotionally. And you're going to experience the energy regardless, whether you watch the reading or not, or you're aware of these energies or not. The energy just always is what it is. The benefit of the reading is really your ability to be conscious and align with the energy and support the energy, nurture yourself in particular ways that are going to assist you in moving through and embodying the energy with more ease and grace. So keep that in mind. Move us into the next card. Remember to pause it if you are watching the replay, and that way you can see what the energy is. I just want to make sure there's no glare on the screen. Okay. So this card is Nefertum, and the number is 5. And 5 is actually the number of struggle. But it's really the number of power, because the 5 comes after the 4 when you have that stability of your 4 corners, right? And the 5th element throws things a bit off kilter, right? But it's only to bring it into perfection of the 6. So it creates power. 5 is really the energy of change. And it's in the house of fire, which is the house of Akhat. But the card itself is Nefertum. Okay. And you can see Nefertum is the lotus energy. Now, ancestrally, the lotus was used as actually plant medicine, really, for the DMT that it let out, the dimethyltryptamine, which allows you to have what people perceive as a hallucinogenic experience, but it's actually removing the veil of what we experience in the third dimension and allowing you to see beyond and into higher realms or higher dimensions of our experience. That's why usually there's like heightened senses. You see different colors, symbols, different things like that, right? So that's how one of the ways the lotus was used. The lotus was also a sweet smell, right? So you think about it, it's really a sensory energy. And this can be any way where mentally you may be affected by any type of like plant medicine, any substance that's going to alter your consciousness. This could even be weed, like it's the energy itself of that force or that altered perception. Because Nefertum is actually the card of the distillation of experience, right? And like the joy of realization. So it's showing this mental state that's still influencing us right now, of whatever awareness we've come into and probably just naturally moved into, and that rose up during the eclipse energy that initiated this cycle. So whatever that energy is or whatever that situation, circumstance, or aspect of your life, thought pattern, whatever it may be that came up to the surface, is more than likely what you're coming into some sense of realization or deeper awareness around something within you, a way of being, a way of thinking, specifically because we're in the mental realm with this card. Okay. Now, it's also important for you to just always take note of anything that comes up for you when you look at the card. It's interesting that he's holding the wasp scepter, which is actually the scepter that is in his hand, not the Ankh, which is the energy of life and its eternal essence, right? The life force, the creative life force. But the other symbol in his arm, the staff, the wasp scepter, it symbolizes Set. So you can see that at the top of it, it literally looks like this mask that he's wearing here, right? Whatever this creature was that became extinct, right? With the long ears and that long nose, you can see that on the scepter that he's holding, it has that same symbol there. This represents having dominion over your lower self, right? So this could be as simple as thinking about your lower energy centers, the things that have you focused on survival, have you focused on sexuality, lust, right? The benefit of those lower energies, even the will, right? Just asserting yourself in the world. The benefit of those energies is when they're circulating and you allow the energy to actually rise up and connect with your other energy centers, which the next one would be the heart. If you're not in line with the heart and you're not in integrity, then the way that you wield the lower frequency is usually damaging and destructive. Okay. And that's the element of set, right? It keeps you in that lower realm where you're just focused on and fixed in the fixed material physical reality. And that's how most people get deceived, is through the energetics of the physical world and being attached to certain things, desire, right? So when we move to Nefertum, this is about processing and integrating those realizations that have been coming up and the joy that that's bringing around just clarity around whatever your life is lifting for you and whatever you're seeing right now. This is also the energy of like young love or a young lover or even a child. You can see that he has that one braid on the side, which was um, something that was worn by youth in ancient times. Okay. So that's the energy that's pretty much behind us in the mind that's still influencing us, right? We've already kind of come to these realizations, this clarity of whatever our attachments are, whatever our ego has been fixated on, that we now have to begin to soften, right? And nurture or allow to die and be reborn, because that's a big theme of this energy, is really moving through whatever that thing is, allowing that attachment to detach or to die and decay so that something new can sprout. Just like when you put the seed into the ground and the seed decays and sprouts and you get new life from that process, right? So that's what we're moving into, because that new process is abundant. That new process, that new stage that we're moving into is actually one full of pleasure. And that's what the card really the cards represent in the lower frequency, is a lot of sensual energy, a lot of sexual energy, a lot of pleasure, but wanting to come into that through renewed values, right? In whatever way that looks for you. Now, the next card and the final card that we're going to touch on for this reading is Shu Tefnut. I love this card. It's so cute to me. All right. So you can note whatever comes up for you intuitively. But Shu and Tefnut is the number 2. And the 2 card is always twin energy. And that's literally what this is. This is like the original twin flame, as they call it. But genuinely, this is twin energy. This is the first aspect of creation that is self-projected out and then creates all other forces and energies. So this is the energy of union of opposites. It's also in the family of Ra, the family of the sun, like the other card was. And Shu and Tefnu are a couple. And in all of the different principles that we have, even the ones that we've covered, there's always a divine feminine and a divine masculine aspect of the force, right? So it's Set, he has his wife, sister, Nebetet. She represents the receptive feminine aspect of death and decay. So here, when we have Shu and Tefnut, Shu represents the air, right? And Tefnut represents the moisture. Shu is the atmosphere. They're both principles of the atmosphere. But Shu is dry and Tefnut is moist. So you can think about it in the sense of that masculine and feminine aspect as well. Because when we're talking about the waters being emotions, then the feminine is always going to be that watery element, right? And the masculine being dry, that's more of that logical, practical aspect. And again, this is all spiritual. I'm not talking about gender roles or anything like that, right? This is energy. We all have masculine and feminine energy in us. One is active, one is receptive. It's just literally sacred science in the context of electromagnetism. But we as Africans are very creative and poetic and dramatic in our expression of the sciences that we literally made a drama of it. Like we would literally create plays, and that's why you usually see most of the symbols with masks on, right? And to this day, you can see all over the continent that that tradition still exists. A lot of that theater and the masks and the rites and the ceremonies and the dancing and the chanting and the music, right? So that's what I mean by it. So now, Shu and Tefnut is a really beautiful energy. Now, I said it's a twin energy, so it's dealing with the left and the right hemispheres, right? And because it's the atmosphere or air, it is inherently a mental energy. But this is talking about our minds coming into union, right? Becoming whole in our thinking, becoming whole in our own active and receptive elements of ourselves. So you could think of this in conversation, like when we're speaking, we're active; when we're listening, we're receptive. So it can represent communication, high level communication, the higher mind, because this is the universal mind. They're twin aspects of the universal mind, the astral body. Okay, so it's like the intuition and the rational. So synchronizing within our minds. Now, this is the energy that if we align with and we nurture and we evoke from within us and embody, we're supported in overcoming that opposition that is energetically present. That eclipses always lift. So usually going to be some type of opposition, just something that's going to strengthen you, something about yourself that comes to light, that comes to surface. And as much as you may try to push it down, it's just going to be so present and you have to deal with it. So just give attention to whatever's happening in your life right now and how this energy is taking form in your life specifically, because that's the best way that you can apply the knowledge and the wisdom of the reading. So this is just laying out the energy. And then I want you to take into consideration, what have you been learning over the past revolution, the past year, around your value and the ways that you need to balance yourself, particularly in the mind, based on what we covered in this reading. I will go more in depth in the collective reading for the militia, but just keep in mind how you can balance your active and receptive, because sometimes we block ourselves from our abundance. Sometimes we block ourselves from the bag because we're afraid of whatever it may be. So whatever those things are that are surfacing that have been in the way, clearing out those belief systems, clearing out those thought patterns. A lot of it can be very multidimensional, very intergenerational, very ancestral, past life things. It's a lot, right? We're in a continuum, and in eternity, everything is happening. And sometimes things are moving through us, and we just may not be aware of exactly where it stems from. And to be honest with you, it's very simple to get that answer if you choose to just go inside yourself and trust that inner knowing and where it guides you. You could even do that through journaling, meditation. There's a lot of different ways, but it's usually easier for us to do that the more that we've cultivated our relationship with ourselves and the more that we've synchronized our inner voice, right? And the more discernment that we have, right? So the most important thing is deepening that connection with yourself, recognizing that everything is everything. I am a reflection of you. So me delivering this message to you is really a reflection of something that your spirit has called in for itself from our collective soul. So I hope that you receive the oracle. And if you do want to continue into the extended reading and get access to all the other benefits of being a member, I am going to go ahead and put that on the screen again for those who are interested in joining the Tehuti Ma'at Militia. and getting the full reading. You also will get access to our private server, which is called the ARC, the African Rehabilitation Center. And the ARC is also the Amos Wilson Collective. It's our collaboration between Tehuti Ma'at and the African War College. So we do a lot of work around self-development, healing work. So even if you just want to support the organization and the work that we're doing with a monthly contribution, we always welcome that. The other thing that you can do to just support the work that we're doing, contribute for this reading, if it resonated with you and you are interested in supporting us, you can also send us a Cash App to Tehuti Ma'at World. So $ Tehuti Ma'at World if you would like to support the channel and for us to continue providing you with these readings. And again, if you want to just support Queens and Karis, we're going to start getting more active on the Coins and Karis Instagram now that we just wrapped up our Navigating Eternity series. And tonight is actually, if you're watching this in real time, our live stream with Mama Regina. And that is for the Professor and Priestess live show. And this is going to be the final episode of the season. But you can actually watch the whole series, all 12 episodes. We're going to put it into a playlist. Same with the Navigating Eternity series. We did put a playlist there so you can watch all of the episodes that we've done. And we also had a couple of episodes on the Tehuti Ma'at Instagram as well. So you can also follow Tehuti Ma'at on IG, and you can watch those first few episodes that we did of the Navigating Eternity Ancient Astrology series. Okay, so I want to thank you again for your presence, for your energy contributing to this reading. And I trust that you are going to align with whatever it is that you need to strengthen yourself during this cycle. And I pray that this reading is a support for you in any way. All right. Travel light and have a beautiful night. Power.